Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Guys, we have the Team of the Year icon cards that have been fully leaked. So we're going to go ahead and check out the cards that could be potentially coming out and why they look so sick. So I was going to make this video earlier, but I was obviously watching the All-Star game versus PSG. And when Ronaldo and Messi came off, my TV just randomly shut off. No idea why, right? So, yeah, with the icons, guys, the full team looks like this, right? So the full list of Team of the Year icons is going to be Ronaldinho, Hullet, Van der Sar, Beckham, Cole, Nesta, Pirlo, Makalele, Perez, Muller, Sanchez, Alonso, Zanetti, as well as Vidic, right? So I think what's going to happen with this promo is that they're going to be releasing one team first, and then they're going to be releasing the second team afterwards. So I didn't do the reviews for the World Cup version of the icons. Honestly, it's mostly for motivation more than anything, but I'll see if I could do my best to review these cards if given the situation, because a lot of coins are going to be spent during this Team of the Year promo, because doing the reviews for all the Team of the Year cards, as well as, you know, doing the SBCs and whatnot, is definitely going to be very draining. So we're going to have to see what's up with all of that. But yeah, obviously the first one here going to be Ronaldinho. Honestly, I haven't tried out Ronaldinho's card ever since the World Cup game mode. Have I tried out other cards? Maybe if there was like an SBC. Yeah, I don't remember fully, because obviously with this year's version of the game being very different than previous versions in regards to like the dribbling, body type animations, all that kind of stuff. This one would definitely be a very interesting one to try out, because he has his own body type, Ronaldinho body type, 5-star skills, 4-star weak foot, high-low work rates, right? So everything is, to be fair, bouncing off this card really nicely. If you're playing this in a 4-3-2-1 setup, playing as your right-sided player, he'd probably be an absolute monster there, right? With a card like this, whether you make him a controlled or explosive, honestly, either or would be perfectly fine. But whichever one you would go with, I feel like the card would perform really well, because on a Hawk, he gets a nice little physical boost, the shooting boost is there, the pace boost is there. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to format this card, because he does look pretty nice. You know, he does look pretty nice, but the Ronaldinho body type is the main thing that you'd probably have to take a look at when it comes to this bad boy. Hullet, obviously, you know, a meta card as well. Hullet is just that guy, right? He's got the 5-star weak foot, he's got the 4-star skills. He is pretty much good at doing everything, which is the least that you can ask for when it comes to these types of players. What's interesting about him is that you can make him controlled or lengthy. I do feel like because of his height being at 6'3", with the unique body type, I do feel like you want to be able to utilize that part of the card as much as possible. So giving him a shadow is not super ideal, right? An anchor would definitely make the most sense, because the lengthy will kind of push those animations out of the card a little bit more. Thing is, though, is that you would obviously have to try it out too, because sometimes the lengthy might not be a preference of people's. Giving him a controlled wouldn't be horrible either. But, you know, there's players like Valverde, right, who's on an architect chemistry style, and he's a lengthy, and in my opinion, I think he performs better on that lengthy than he does if I were to give him a shadow. Some cards are like that, some cards are not. I do feel like Hullet would definitely be one of those cards that if you were to give him an anchor on a lengthy, he would definitely be preferable. Especially in his case, I would use him as a stay back while attacking center mid on the left side, and I feel like the balance would be super nice in the team, because his work rate would still push him forward sometimes with the high attacking positioning. So it'd be a really nicely balanced player in the squad. Van der Sar, I personally think that when it comes to the icon goalkeepers, Van der Sar is probably the most consistent, right? Like every single year, the card just ends up being a card that people usually use in their full meta teams, because he just ends up being a very good goalkeeper. Do I know what he's like recently? Not necessarily, but I just know that from the icon goalkeepers, he is usually the most consistent. I think he's a traditional goalkeeper in game. You know, he's 6'6", high and average plus body type, right? So he has the height for it. Traits wise, comes for crosses, team player, goalkeeper throw, I mean, goalkeeper long throw. I mean, those are two fantastic traits to have, especially if you're trying to have a little bit more aggression out of your goalkeeper. David Beckham, listen, they gotta do some special things to this card, okay? Truth be told, they gotta do some special things to this card, because this card in FIFA is just not good, man. It's just not. I'm sorry. You gotta, for him to fit the meta of this game, you gotta give him better stuff, okay? This 3-star nonsense, by default, you can't do that, okay? If you're gonna make this Team of the Year version of his card, just make him a 4-star. Who cares? It's a video game. You want realism? Okay, go get these ones. You know, be my guest and get these ones. But this David Beckham card needs a significant upgrade, right? You know, in his case, he's a well-rounded midfielder. If he has to be the more attacking-oriented center mid, you know, fantastic. It is what it is. I would totally do it, right? Maybe I would give him like an engine chemistry style with the right stats, and he would be usable in that way. But yeah, for the meta of this game, for David Beckham, you know, being one of the best distributors of the ball, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta make him a better card. Like, this being the prime version is a joke, okay? People wouldn't even use this card, honestly, earlier in the year. I'm not even gonna lie to you, you know? Like, if you were to pack him, like, oh, cool, but Renato Sanchez rare gold is going to play better than this guy. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but it's true, you know. Like, you have to do realism, but you have to do like in-game stuff too. Like, these cards need to be better, you know. Like a David Beckham prime card should be better than a rare gold Renato Sanchez. You know what I mean? So yeah, just stuff like that I think is very important. Ashley Cole, they don't really. I don't think they really format him that well. I mean, you know what? He's okay. He's not terrible. Like, on this card, you give him a shadow, I would say. You can make him explosive. I don't think explosive is relevant, to be honest. Yeah, I think the only thing to say about Ashley Cole is that they would have to, like, you would have to be able to give him an anchor, right? And his pace would have to be close to 99 for both, with defense being where it's at, and then physical being improved as well, so that he's at least the best version of himself. Because Ashley Cole 100% should be one of the best left backs in the game, in my opinion, because this guy is one of the best left backs of our generation, period. Okay, he's one of the best, 100%. So, you know, an anchor would be nice with higher, like, even if the defense and the physical stays where it's at, but this is a +4 on each of the acceleration and sprint speed, even that would be okay, you know, because the dribbling stats is in a good area. He's 5'9", average body type, like, that's cool, you know. But the pace, especially in this year's game, with pace being super relevant again, right? Especially after that patch, like, you need it, you know, you need it. So that's what I would say to that. Nesta, another very obvious player as well, that 100% needs the upgrades. This is one of the best defenders, again, of our generation. Him and Maldini together was absolutely insane. And in FIFA, these cards are just not ideal, right? Like, if you were to use Nesta in the beginning of the year, he was actually pretty decent. Why? Because the lengthy meta was way more important. However, this card is kind of poorly formatted a little bit for the lengthy meta because his sprint speed is lower than the acceleration. Sprint speed being higher is actually the one you want when it comes to being able to utilize that lengthy accelerator as much as possible. So I could see people using this card for fun, sure, especially since he is still going to be on a lengthy, but you have to play like very conservative defense. Like, you can't use this like auto offside trap thing with your custom tactics, because if you do, you're gonna get dusted. So the main thing with this card obviously is going to be the pace. You know, the pace needs to be drastically improved. The physical is not in a bad area, it's just the pace. The pace needs to be formatted differently for you to be able to use him on that lengthy and for him to be a good player in game, right? Like, he definitely needs the right improvements there. Pirlo is also another card, right? It's usually the Pirlos, the Xavis. Pirlo, this card right here, you know, again, pace is really low. You give him a shadow chemistry style, he's explosive. Technically, you could use him as your attacking oriented center mid for sure, but it's one of those types of cards where some improvements in certain areas would definitely be very nice. To be fair, this version of the card is still a little bit more usable than like the normal cards, I would say, because he has a few nice things, right? So sure, his pace is low, his defense is not necessarily the highest, but yeah, he at least has 5-star skills, 4-star weak foot. You know, there's a few variables to work with there. But anybody that is playing the game normally, that's not doing it for sentimental value, this is another card that they would have to drastically improve as well. Because Andrea Pirlo, in his prime, which can actually be debated during his Juventus days, because he literally went to Juventus because AC Milan thought he was too old. And I'm pretty sure he won like 2 or 3 MVP seasons in a row, which is absolutely phenomenal during that time period, especially because he was like 31 or something when he left AC Milan, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, if it's the prime version of this card, or, you know, you're doing the Team of the Year version, it definitely needs to be drastically improved as well, because that's obviously, in my opinion, kind of disrespectful for the FIFA mechanics, right? Like, you always have to take that into consideration, right? Makalele, if you guys don't know, Makalele is one of my favorite players of all time. I love this guy. But in FIFA, it's a usable card. It's a usable card because, you know, in his case, he's a controlled player, shadow chemistry style. The pace is in a decent area. It's all about transition speed with this guy because he is. It's basically like the comparison you would make is between him and Conte for the most part, right? The only difference is obviously in work rates because Conte, I believe, is the medium high work rated card, while this card is a low high. Generally speaking, the smaller players are not necessarily super ideal meta-wise to use in your team. I think with a shadow chemistry style or with any midfielders for that matter, I think it's better to always have taller players, right? Like I'm pretty sure my Palinga card can still play better than this Makalele card, right? Which I'm not completely against, you know. With Palinga, he's once they give him the upgrades, defensive animations, tall player on a lengthy, performs really well. But I think with the smaller players, you kind of have to play with them a little bit differently, right? So obviously in his case, if I were to use that 4-3-2-1 setup, he would play as the middle guy, but not having shooting capabilities in certain situations because they do sometimes attack, right? It would be nice to have a little bit of it, right? And he has none of it, so it's a card that you would specifically have to use as a CDM, probably in a 4-1-2-2 or like a 4-2-3-1 setup, being as a stay back guy and just kind of lingering in that area. But meta FIFA wise, like his height can be a problem sometimes, but it's one of those types of things. It's not like in that 1 year of FIFA where if you got like a team of the year Conte, he's absolutely nutty, right? Like the smaller players, they're still decent to use, but the taller players make a huge difference. Like even if you guys see the pro player tactics and stuff, and when we actually check out their team, it's always taller guys. Like you don't really often see smaller guys unless someone's using Ronaldo Sanchez OTW, right? And even that you don't really see too often. It depends on the links that you're working with in your club. Like some people do him because of Mbappe and stuff, and some other players too. Perez, I think Perez has potential. I think they can definitely be. I think they have the potential of making this card really nice. Because his prime card, again, pretty generic, a generic FC for sure. But he does look like he could be really well formatted in the future on like a Hawk or something, right? Because they themselves would obviously have to improve agility and balance quite drastically for the card. But on a Hawk chemistry style, imagine with higher pace, a little bit of extra physical, the shooting being high for base card stats, it would actually be a pretty decent card. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Perez in 1 year of FIFA had a 5-star weak foot. I could be wrong. I might be thinking of Nedved, to be honest with you, but yeah, he has potential, right? Because he's already the minimum 4-star. He is a taller player at 6'2", high and average plus, so that by default people don't want to use. So they do have to make it unique in that sense, right? Because when you take a look at a card like this card right here is 6'1" with a high and average Y type. This is genuinely the only card in that type of vicinity of height and body type that you will see meta pro players still use in their teams, right? Well, pro players are only going to use meta players, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like I see this guy being used as the attacking oriented center mid in that 4-3-2-1 on a consistent basis. And I still see him being used in like someone's 4-4-2 setup where he's played on the left or right side because he's 5-star, right? So a lot of variables to work with there when it comes to Ginola's card. Muller has potential because these cards here, okay, so these cards here, they're actually not poorly formatted, okay? Because you could take a look just by default that if you were to give this card an engine chemistry style, right? His dribbling is in the 90s area. His acceleration is higher than the sprint speed. So that's okay if he's a controlled player, right? Sprint speed is always going to be a nice thing to have, of course, right? But it's not horrible to work with. And then his passing is okay. He's got some physical heading accuracies at a 96, high medium work rate. Like your buildup would just have to be a little bit slower, and you may not be able to do like certain, you know, force through balls. But I do feel like that this card could be, you know, an absolute monster if formatted correctly. Again, because with shooting, it's already in a good area. Pace has to be formatted differently, though. That's a main thing here for sure, as well as the passing. But the dribbling, again, is already well formatted as well. So just one of those types of cards where there's a lot of potential. You know, he's met the minimum criteria of having 4-star, a good work rate. So always look into those. Sanchez, they have to do a big upgrade too. This guy is very generic. I'm sorry. Like they make this card very generic. It has to be better. And that, you know what it is? It's generic because like in FIFA, like I always try to explain to you guys, I know that some people don't always want to use skill moves, but skill moves are important, okay? A minimum 4-star is necessary because this card is really well formatted, like I said earlier, right? Like if you give him a Hawk, He's got the pace, he's got the shooting, he's got the physical stats, right? You don't even necessarily have to give him a hawk. You give him a hunter and make him an explosive player, and he's great, you know? It's just that when you're up against the park the bus stuff, you kind of need skill moves. You need the L1 croquetas, you need the stop scoop turn at least. Like, it's helpful to work with. That's why I love Correa's cards so much, because they at least make him a 4-star player. And the all-star Saudi Arabian team, I think, just scored, and it was the beast, Talishka. But yeah, honestly, the only thing that they have to do with Sanchez is give him skill moves. Like, that's it. That's all they really have to do. Was it a penalty? Nah, Talishka's just got a banging left foot on him. Look at that shot, bottom left corner. Talishka is one of those guys that like collected the bag during his career, but he could have genuinely played like for a good Premier League team. Like, that guy's an absolute monster. But anyways, Alonso, oh dude, Alonso, this one hurts me the most. See, the thing about Alonso, okay, is that he's a lengthy. So before the patch, this card was okay, right? But you never got to a point where you even wanted to use this card, because we never got to that point to begin with, right? So all of these cards, I remember, dude, it's funny because even without the accelerate thing, I remember complaining about this before the card was even released, because he's so horribly formatted for the meta of this game. Like, he's so horribly formatted. Like, if he's formatted like this, you might as well make him a medium high work rated player. You know what I'm saying? You might as well. If he's gonna have pace like that, dribbling stats like, well, like, why would I want the high on this guy? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a lot of potential with him in particular. I like, because the reason why he has potential is because he's a lengthy player as well. So if they format him correctly, where he's got some decent pace to work with, you know, defensive stats are there, he can shoot the ball well, it'll be sick. It just that has to be changed. Like, it's a really poorly. It's 129k for a reason. The only guys that are going to collect this bad boy are people who are doing sentimental squads for the most part, right? Zanetti, they do an okay job with. I think they'll definitely improve it for sure. He's not a horrible card. I do feel like his pace needs to be formatted differently. Like, I feel like they're probably going to boost the card to still be either on an anchor or a shadow, but they'll probably improve dribbling by a little bit, maybe a little bit of extra shooting, you know. Like I said, it's not a poorly formatted card. If you were to use this card in your team, it's fine, but again, with pace, you kind of want it to be a little bit higher. It's definitely very important. And he doesn't have a lengthy on an anchor or anything like that to kind of help it out a little bit more. So food for thought with that one for sure. And then Vidic is another one that they have to drastically improve, because he's pretty generic too, to be honest, right? This is one of the better Premier League center backs of all time. And he's just not really that well formatted. He's decent. If you get this card over here, he's decent because the lengthy meta before was okay, right? Obviously with this card, you can give him a shadow. He's still going to have 84, 87, which is okay to work with, especially on a lengthy, and base card stats for physical being good. But some improvements in dribbling, maybe a little bit of extra pace, 2s and 3s would definitely be very nice as well, because the lengthy kind of helps out a lot when it comes to that pace, because the pace is not completely poorly formatted, right? The defensive boost is, I feel like, very necessary. Maybe if they give certain improvements on the car in the future, you don't even give them a defensive boost. Maybe you give them like a catalyst or something. But yeah. So the icon cards, they're definitely very interesting for sure, for the most part. I think, honestly, like, I think anybody would just want Ronaldinho on their team for the most part, because Ronaldinho is just that guy. But yeah, definitely a very interesting full team of the year here, team of the year icon team over here so far. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video today. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.